This is Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Hey, buddy, welcome to Teaching to the Test Pattern. I'm Tom White, your host, and this is the second part of my conversation with Bo Cordle. Bo works doing a lot of things, and in this conversation, we're going to talk about when he's building graphics for Sunday Night Football. We're also going to talk about whether or not he thinks that the graphics, the augmented reality graphics, are scalable to the high school level. We're going to talk about Bo's time living in a boat, that and a whole lot more. Couldn't do this show without our friends at Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. They are rock stars, and they can hook you up. In this show, we'll talk about new tech, and we talk about TriCaster and live sets. And if you're into those things, you need to reach out to Amatrace, AMITRACE.com. They can hook you up with really a lot of things. A lot of people immediately go, well, new tech, but they also work with LiveView. They work with Data Video. They work with Blackmagic. They work with iCan. They work with JVC, Panasonic, Mackie, a whole list of industry standard, industry expected clients and manufacturers. You can get that for your school program. Reach out to Amatrace.com, AMITRACE.com. You got nothing else to do right now. Wrap up this podcast, go to Amatrace.com, scroll through all kinds of stuff. They've got live streaming built for the House of Worship. They've got information about the Lunch and Learn. If you didn't catch that Lunch and Learn, you can't get the lunch, but you can definitely learn. The link to their video is there. Tons and tons of stuff there. Just scroll through. You're going to find you're going to waste a half a day. So go check them out, AMITRACE.com. Now, here's part two of my conversation with Bo Cordle.
Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Gotcha. So when you talk about building graphics, what goes into that? I mean, I know you have your list that's in every show, but let's say you start with a custom. What are you guys using? How are you preparing those things? I mean, what softwares? And these are all the questions that I'm anticipating that if I didn't know, I would ask.
Yeah. So most everything that we're doing is all the software products are Ross Video software products. So the main, as far as the AR graphics are concerned, the main graphics engine we're using is Ross Expression, which you're seeing more and more in colleges, especially with the ESPN 3 stuff going on. You're seeing Ross Expression a lot more, which Expression is, you've heard of Chiron, you've heard of Viz. It's kind of a CG. A lot of people operate it as a CG in that realm, but it's also a 3D graphics rendering engine. So that's what we use to render the 3D graphics. Some of the graphics are made in, or the templates are made in Cinema 4D, as far as the 3D elements, and then we bring those into Expression and do what we need to for the live show. And then the AR, so with AR, you have the 3D graphic, but then you also need to be able to track the camera movements. So we're able to take the camera tracking data, whether it's data from a tracked tripod head or visually tracked data, like, you're lining up the grid lines on the field. We're able to take that data, bring it into Expression, bring it into a software called Ross UX, which marries that with the video. So on the AR side, basically the computer knows that if the camera pans left, then the graphic needs to move right. So you get the impression is that the graphic's actually sitting on the field when it's not. So if you're unfamiliar with what AR graphics are, I always tell people it's like the yellow line. Mm-hmm. I don't do the yellow line. That's the guy that sits in front of me. That's a different group, SMT. But what we do are the big 3D, the 3D graphics that are kind of the same thing. They look like they're on the field, but they're not.
Excellent. And so I put this out to my video teachers group, and Shannon Reed at West Hall High School up north of Atlanta asked, do you think there's a way to scale that down to the high school side? Do you think that there's a possibility of that? I mean, I know high schools could purchase Ross and could get Expression and could get all those things, but do you know of any way that they could do it on a high school budget or even a small college budget?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of you obviously deal with new tech products a lot. And the virtual set stuff is very similar. You do the virtual set, which is behind you. You're on a green screen, virtual set's behind you. And then AR would be anything you put in front of you, and if it were to look 3D, then even better. As far as where it gets tricky is trying to track the camera movements. That's where you start getting a little more complicated, because if it's just a lock off camera shot, you can fake it, and you can place an image out in space and it look like it's there. And where it, if you start moving the camera, then obviously the illusion is blown.
Gotcha.
And that's where you start getting into needing a tracked camera head or a way to visually track, with points of, either infrared dots or some sort of high contrast points.
Gotcha. So, I have hacked Wirecast to do some very basic, again, locked off stuff, or, stuff where I know where the play is going to happen, or I can do a down and distance marker on the field with that kind of same idea. So let's back up in the life of Bo. And how did you what got you into media? Where did you start?
This is why what you do is so important, because it started as a student. I started as a student at my local TV station in Noonan, Georgia. I was invited by Tim Frazier, who you probably remember.
I know Tim very well.
Yeah, he invited me basically to take his job because he was going to college and didn't want to do it anymore. So I interned for him and fell into the TV thing and started, directing the live shows. And I mean, that's, in those days, it was literally one person in a control room doing everything and then running around to the studio to move the camera during, commercial breaks and whatever. So you learn everything in that small studio role. And then, from there went to college, and at the University of Georgia, really, got involved with the college TV program there. I first met you there towards the end of college. Tim, again, had hired me to work for Clear Channel in Atlanta. He had moved up there, and he was getting ready to move to LA. So he needed somebody to kind of backfill his spot. And also Braves Radio Network was just coming online. So worked again. He got me another job there. And, he was quite pivotal in my early TV and radio days, I guess.
I need to get him on here because he has launched a lot of careers, or been influential in a lot of careers. I'm gonna hit him up later today and get him on here.
Yeah, as you look back in your career, there are obviously several forks in the road and several people who kind of steered you. And for better or worse, he definitely got me into this. But yeah, it's so from there, basically started doing college TV. And college TV led me into the video board world, where at Georgia, as I was a junior and a senior, Georgia started getting a lot of these giant jumbotrons in their college, in their football and basketball stadiums, and they needed people to produce content or run the live production. So they had partnered with the video board company Daktronics to do all the production. So I got in with Daktronics and ended up going full time with them after I graduated, and that ultimately led me to a freelance position now, where I've since done 4 Super Bowls and 3 Olympic Games, among countless other random basketball tournaments and countless other events.
So I was going to ask you about the Olympics. What is that? And for you, it's not just 2 weeks. It's for the athletes, it's 2 weeks. But what is that like as a producer?
The Olympics are a pretty crazy machine. Was actually getting ready to go to Tokyo here in a month or two, and then this, all this craziness with the coronavirus is kind of derailed some things. But the Olympics. So I've held 2 different roles with the Olympics. I've done a video director for figure skating in both Sochi and Pyeongchang. And then for sailing in Rio, I was a basically a venue producer. Is what
Wait a minute. So you were involved with sailing?
I was. You know, it's funny because they called me in 2012. I just worked the Super Bowl for this company called Van Wagner, Big Screen Networks, now Van Wagner, and they have the contract to do production on almost any large event that you've ever heard of. The Olympics being, one of them. So I just worked the Super Bowl with them, my first Super Bowl with them. And then after that, they were getting ready to, start staffing up for the Olympics in Sochi. So he called me and he's like, hey, would you be interested in, directing one of the venues for the Olympics? I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. He's like, well, what do you know about figure skating? Like, well, I've seen Blades of Glory.
There you go.
He said, you're hired, so, so then 2 years later, when it came time to do Rio, the Summer Olympics, he's like, all right, sailing, a little more about, so let's put you there.
By the way, inside glimpse, Bo is like a sailor, for lack of not in the language term, but in the truest term of owns boats, sails around the world kind of sailor.
I was fortunate enough to live on a boat for 8 years. My wife and I got married in 2015, and then we went sailing. We sailed for 3 years off and on. We kind of did 6 months on, 6 months off. So we sailed for 6 months out of the year and then came home for football season, basically, so I could work.
So totally not production related. What's it like living on a boat?
Let's see. It's like the original tiny house. It's at various points terrifying and, awesome. The stressful part about living on a boat is that at any given point it could sink.
Yes.
I don't wake up in the middle of the night now that I have a house. I don't wake up in the middle of the night and walk outside to see if I'm still in the same place that I fell asleep.
Gotcha. I just, I've lived in a lot of places, but never thought of a boat. So.
Teaching to the test pattern.
Well, there you have it. Living on a boat for 8 years. That's Bo Cordle. Again, thanks to Bo for his time and the great conversation about graphics and about doing things at the Olympics and the Super Bowl and things like that. So, again, thank you to Bo for that. Thank you to Amatrace for their continued support of Teaching to the Test Pattern. AMITRACE.com is where you can go find whatever you need for video production. I mean, literally, try them. Challenge them. Say, hey, I want to do this. I bet they can figure it out because they're really smart dudes. Thank you so much for downloading this show. Have a great day. And as always, go make some awesome.
Teaching to the test pattern.